the Manhattan Borough President's Office, who handles public schools capital funding. Our budget team consists of Vanessa Diaz, who is the budget director, Nelson Andino, budget analyst, who handles nonprofit capital funding. And we also have Mr. Matthew Washington, who is our deputy borough president, which will join us shortly. The Manhattan Borough President's Office would like to thank each person who signed up for the fiscal year 22 Reso A Capital Funding Information Session. This afternoon's rundown will include remarks from our very own Manhattan Borough President, Gail A. Brewer, representatives from the School Construction Authority, the agency that manages and receives the allocated funds on behalf of the school, as well as two public schools principals from PS 133 and PS 171, who will talk about their experiences with the process, projects, and their successes, challenges, and provide some feedback to you. We will have the live chat feature open for anyone who would like to ask any questions, comments, or share any links or any information. If you would like to ask a question for any of the presenters, please use the raise hand feature located on the bottom of the screen. We also ask you to please keep your computer phone muted during the presentation. At this time, I turn it over to our fabulous Honorable Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much, James. I'm not so fabulous and I'm not so honorable. The people who are fabulous are honorable. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
The people who are fabulous and honorable are staff, but also the principals, SCA, and everybody who's trying to make these schools work. I did go to a school. It is the Ellen Laurie School on 100 and Dykeman and over by the river. Opening day on Monday, yesterday morning. Most wonderful principal. Everybody was teacher and para outside, taking temperatures, making people sign in to get the testing, welcoming. It was very special. There weren't a lot of students. We were giving out PPE, but the quality of the efforts in 2020 by the school personnel are like none other. So I just want to say congratulations. It's perhaps the hardest thing you've ever done in any of us in our lives, but thank you everyone having to do with schools. And I wish I could do more, but we certainly do try with every dollar we have to make sure that the public schools get everything that they should. Not to say that I'm able to do that, but congratulations on what you have accomplished already. So, year after year, we work on this capital budget. I've been in office now 7 years, but then did the same thing 12 years in the city council. And I know how important this funding is. However, it has been very frustrating, as SCA knows, OMB knows, and the Department of Education knows, to make sure that the money gets spent for the allocation. And I know that the need is for devices and for something that you may not be able to control, which is fast, inexpensive internet. But, just in terms of the devices, and I know that others will talk about it more, I am frustrated because we have written to all those agencies and the mayor about our Reso A funding last year to get to these technology devices. It's around $15 million sitting in the bank. Now, DOE and I think SCA, and we are all over OMB, have written us back, but we are clear about the needs and the fact that every dollar should go towards these devices. And I can tell you, not supposed to say who tells me everything, so I keep my mouth shut, but there's about over 5,000 students, even though I know last Friday, some of that 100,000 that the mayor reordered device-wise came in to the school. So last Friday, I know some schools did get some devices, but you can get a device today, and then you have other students who have the devices are working, devices old and needs upgrading, etc. So I'm frustrated about it, and I hope SCA hears us. And I understand that the city council members have the same situation. We have allocated almost over $84 million to the public schools towards technology and infrastructure during my 7 years as borough president. And I don't know that we're going to get a lot of money at capital. As you know, it is allocated from the mayor on a percentage basis. So whatever his capital allocation is, every borough president, based on population and some other crazy formula, because we always get hurt in Manhattan, is how the allocation is done. So it'll be challenging, and it will be my last term as borough president at the end of 2021. So we have another year and we will do the best we can. I can tell you that we do want strategy-wise to try to finish projects. So if you have something, you know, we got this, we didn't know that we were gonna have such a device issue, but I can say to you, and you know this, I come from technology. I was chair of the technology committee in the city council. The issue is of devices, technology, internet speed, both in the school and in the home. It's not going to go away. This is going to be something that you're going to have to, we have to figure out how to deal with generally. So I want to say thank you for, again, our staff will meet with you for questions and guidance in order to get your application in so that you aren't rejected for some crazy reason. And if you need help, we hopefully will get this funding moving in the near future. This is FY20 funding that is in trouble, and others can tell us where we are with the 21, because this today is 22. Thank you very much. I leave you with the budget director, who is fabulous, and the staff is fabulous. But you in the field, you really do rock, and I hope my comments make it clear. There are lots of people on the phone. There's one special principal, and you'll hear from him because he's one of the ones speaking to you today. I have nightmares about his office because every book is organized. Every notebook has a title. They're all arranged on his desk, but it is an example for the rest of us. My desk is a mess, but it's an example for the rest of us as to why this particular school does so well on grants, because they are timely, focused on what the application is asking for, and very, very clearly the needs of the students and the families. You'll figure out who he is after he speaks. Thank you very much, everybody. All yours, Vanessa.
Thank you, Gail. And thank you everyone for being here. So this year we wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to hear directly from colleagues in the field who have been doing this work and being successful in submitting applications. Also, we wanted you to hear from people who are the ones who are really implementing not only the process of writing this application, but going through the process of communicating with the school construction authority and all the other different parts that are included in being able to obtain or finalize your projects. So towards that end, prior to hearing from the principals, we're going to invite the school construction authority to just give us their presentation on what RESOA is and what you can do with this funding, what can be purchased and what cannot be purchased, and giving us an idea of pricing and timeline. And then following that, we'll have the principals present on their experience. So Bennett, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bennett Baruch, and I'm here with my colleague Bianca Almedina from the School Construction Authority, and Brian McGinn, who wanted to be here but did have a family emergency and couldn't join us. I also want to second the Manhattan Borough President's remarks, just thanking all the school leadership for all the amazing work that you've been doing and the mountains that you've had to move so far this year. Hopefully we can make your jobs a little easier. Should I just pull up the presentation, share my screen? There it is.
Yes.
Share. Okay. Do you guys see what I see?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we're here to talk a little bit about our RESOA program. We're the School Construction Authority. We manage all of these DOE properties of about 1,800 buildings across the city. And we receive the allocations from city council members and borough presidents, specifically for projects in schools, and help administer those projects. This goes a little bit into that. I'm not going to read all the words on all the slides. You should have a copy. If not, Vanessa could forward you them in the future. So what is RESOA? Like I mentioned, these are city projects that that started because an elected official, whether your city council person or your borough president, allocated monies towards that project in your school. There's specific projects like technology upgrades, playground upgrades, auditorium upgrades, so on and so forth. Here's a slide about participatory budgeting. It's pretty much, it's the same pot of money that is used from that capital allocations from your elected officials. So some of them might set aside a certain amount of their capital budget for participatory budgeting. These are typical Reso-A projects. Here's some of the eligibility requirements. Starting from last year, all grants must have been at a minimum of $50,000. There's been a change to some of the technology that you could request. Basically here, the last bullet, you could get smart boards, printers, tablets, iPads, and Chromebooks, as well as printers, whereas before that was ineligible. Now they are eligible for capital. Things that are not eligible. Here's a little bit about our Reso-A project budgets. So for example, let's say a council person or borough president allocates a certain amount of money. Let's throw out $100,000 for, let's say, an auditorium upgrade. Let's say we sit down with the school for the auditorium upgrade, and we develop a scope of work that is larger than what the budget is for that project. We would then have to go back to the elected official for more money for that project. And that's basically what we're getting at. Here's some budget activity. This is our phasing. This is what happens throughout the fiscal year. Normally, and this is a good slide to talk a little bit about this. Normally, and we could talk about FY20 projects. We receive funding for FY20. We should have received funding in FY20 sometime in December or January of this past year. So January 2020 or December 2019. Our FY20 projects did not get funded from OMB, and we did not receive that funding until February. That was the reason for the late start on a lot of our a lot of our capital projects. COVID happened in March. OMB put a hold on all our projects, not allowing us to pay our consultants or vendors on projects, and therefore a lot of our FY20 projects have been and are on hold still. We hope and anticipate to receive our FY21 funding, hopefully sometime later this month or in January of next year. We have not heard anything about our FY21 projects just yet from OMB. Here's a slide about some of the costs and timeframes for projects. And we can come back to these at any time with any questions. This is one of our favorite slides. This is where you can look for estimates for projects. You could always reach out to our team here at the SCA, but we ask that you do not request pricing from family members or other people that you may know in construction, as they do not necessarily understand all the things that go into projects here at the SCA. Here's our phasing. This is a little bit about co-located schools and Reso-A grants. So for example, you have one high school and it's got 4 different schools in it, and there's a request for a library upgrade, and that's a shared library. We would ask that all students be present during the scoping meetings at the design meetings, and any other kickoff meetings, so everyone could be on the same page. Here's some photos of some completed projects. And this is our contact page. Any questions?
I do have a question. Do we have a procedure on how we're going to ask questions?
I'm open.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. Lee Nelson, PS5. When I order laptops, I'm always required to order carts with it. Can we get around that with our funding? Because we have so many carts in our building, but the prime goal is to replenish the laptops, not to replenish the carts. The carts are fine. So now that I'm seeing that you're having iPads and Chromebooks, great. I have plenty of carts to, put all this equipment in, but I know when I go through this process, they're going to make me buy more carts.
I think that this is something you could bring up with the integrator. And I have heard of instances where schools did not need to replace the carts for laptops. They could use the old ones. Sometimes there are fitting issues, but I also have heard that this is possible. So I think you should bring it up with the integrator. Save yourself some money on that, and also you get more technology.
I think we both agree on that, but I don't think it's as easy as you're saying. But again, if somebody on your level could somehow look into that, that would be much appreciated.
Okay.
Lee, this
Yeah.
is, we have received a number of requests around that issue. It has been brought up to the School Construction Authority for years. I'm sure you're familiar
Sure.
with that. And we are in conversations with the controller's office around that, who can make changes to Directive 10, which is where that comes from. Really not the School Construction Authorities. They can't decide for or anybody else. It has to come from the controller's office. And so there are some conversations currently going on with controller's office and DOIIT from the Department of Education, their technology arm. And so some of that is currently being discussed and being reviewed by the Office of Management and Budget as well, with the intention exactly of that the need right now is related to having devices, and the cost that goes into acquiring that card could be used towards the devices. There is, however, something to think about when these devices do come back to the school. Where will they be stored? And so a lot of that is happening, and each school has a different set of circumstances, because so many of you do have a number of cards already. So it is in conversations, and we should be in touch following this session.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Vanessa.
So I'm wondering if we can hold questions to the end. I mean, Bennett, you're staying to the end, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. You did have a request from someone on the chat to put back the your contact information slide. Everybody just know that we are going to email this to all of you. Every material that is going to be presented here will be emailed to everyone, to the email address that you use for registering.
And just, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yep. And just to add, if you guys have any questions regarding ResOA projects in your buildings, please reach out to Brian, myself, and Bianca. We can give you the best cost estimates that we have in terms of historical projects for historical similar projects. And just to give you an idea to make sure that you'll be requesting more money.
Yeah, and so, we'll probably touch a little bit more on some of those details that you mentioned, Bennett, when we do our part of the presentation. We'll highlight some of those. I think it's important for everyone to understand the concept of the pricing and how long it takes, but most of you know this already, and you'll hear some of that now. If you can please stop sharing your screen, Bennett, so that we can allow Principal Pantelides to go ahead and do his part of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, and thank you, Gail Brewer and James Thomas, for the opportunity to present. My name is Dimitris Pantelides. I have the distinguished pleasure of being the principal of Patrick Henry Prep. We're on 103rd Street and Madison Avenue. I've been in this wonderful institution for the past 22 years, and my goal today is to talk about our story involving the Borough Capital Grant application process. So we're going to give you some internal aspects of how this impacts us as a school. One of the things I'm going to discuss is the background information, knowing your community. That's so essential in terms of making the right decision on what type of grant that you want to apply. In my case, I was very fortunate enough that one of the grants that we had applied for was in the realm of technology, which at this point is a great benefit to our school. The second part that we're going to discuss is about needs assessment. What's the research, and based on your school, of what is the greatest impact that this Reso A grant is going to have on your student population, on your culture, on your parent involvement, and so forth. The third part, as I really love, is the writing process. I think it's essential that we discuss what contributes to good writing. So this way you can really sell your project and make sure that this project is something formidable that's going to be able to support teaching and learning. And the last part is, once you receive your Reso A grant, what's the next steps, which is super essential. First of all, as any institution, and this is our state, is we have to know who we are. We have to know what drives us. In our case, what drives us is our vision is about independent learners. And part of enabling our students to be problem solvers and be critical thinkers, we thought it'd be best to invest in technology, whether it be via smart boards or laptops to support our youth. The other part that we wanted to take a look at is our school goals, or our school goals, and as I call them, our core 5. What is our instruction? How is technology, or what is any other type of Reso A grant application going to help you in instruction, in the culture of your school, your teacher teams, your leadership, and your parent partnership? We would all agree that these 5 components or facets are essential to any Reso A grant. And also taking under account, what are your core values? Every school we know has a core value that has been depicted by staff and students and parents alike. Do they fit your Reso A application? The 3 essential questions that I always like to ask when I'm looking at a Reso A grant is, who are our students and how do we reach them with every possible potential? And what does that mean for our curriculum? We always talk about, what is this going to enhance our teaching? We're in the business of educating kids, educating adults. How is this going to impact our curriculum, whether we're dealing with our little elementary, high school, or even adult education? And the last piece is, how do we know that teachers and students are progressing? That's essential in everything we do. There's a monitoring device to what we do. So we look at many needs assessment. We look at state data. We look at social emotional data. We look at instructional data. And then we look at qualitative and quantitative data. And these are things that we want to think about as a school and as a community. So this way we can make sure we have the greatest impact when we decide on a Reso A grant. In this case, keeping up with the digital era that we don't all agree that is super, super important. And the most important part is to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And what do I mean by that? Obviously, you want to knock on that door and go to your Manhattan Borough president, who's been so supportive to the educational system, and I thank her for that. Then you want to think and connect with your council people. You want to connect with your assembly people. You want to connect with your senators. And then last, your plan E is you want to look through any private institutions or any private grants that will support you. Looking at those areas, because sometimes the Manhattan Borough president doesn't have all the allocation. So you have to look down the line of who can support you in that mission. As Bennett had indicated, there's some projects that could go over $2.5 million. you want to make sure that you have that plan A that can surplus that goal there. So I think that's essential in terms of looking at fulfilling. And then most of all, you want to be able to talk about the impact. What is this? If we're talking about technology or playgrounds or auditoriums, what impact is that going to have on your students, your parents, and your staff? I call it the 3 R's. How are we building relationships? How are we building relevance? And how are we presenting the rigor of it? And it goes back to the theories and the work of Bill Dackett. And I think that's essential when we're selling, what is this going to do for our school? And then let's talk a little about the writing process. You're identifying the project, which is super clear. Who is this project going to impact the most? And how and why will this project impact it? I think once you answer those 4 essential questions, you definitely you're in a good basis. And you want to capture the moment. You want to design. You want to show them and show, when I say them, I'm talking about super amount of community leaders, that this is a grant that's going to support you for years to come. And it's not a one and done deal. So one of the things that we look at carefully is that we do develop, and this is optional. We do provide background information. We do on the grant that we're looking for. We do provide a grant proposal, a research articles. We want to showcase how best practices is incorporated and supports our line of thinking. We show our school metrics and data. Why is that important? Why should you invest in us? What are we doing to make sure that we impact our community and our scholars? And most of all, are you deserving of achievement and grants? You know, we want to make sure that when you get a grant, that you're going to be able to utilize it. There are many times that grants are just sitting on a principal's office and they're not utilizing them appropriately. One of the last pieces is obviously, as we are right now, acquiring the guidelines from the Manhattan Borough President's Office. The other part is, which is not mandated, but it doesn't hurt, developing some kind of systematic plan and how you want to sell your project and going out to your elected officials and community organizers, starting the online application. As Bennett had indicated, there are dates that we have to fulfill. Meeting up, scheduling time with your Manhattan Borough President to discuss the plan and why that should be impactful to our kids. And most of all, submit that final verification process. I think that's essential. So I love VIPs. I love checklists. So, you know, if you can humor me, thanking, you know, once you get the grant, take an initiative of thanking them, letting them know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and thanking them for their work. And just don't stop at thanking. Go back. Thank them during the year. Show them how their work has really impacted your school community. And you'll be surprised how people say, well, look, it wasn't just a one and done. He just didn't want a project, but he's showing me how I funded his project, but it's working. And he's showing me year after year. And then obviously collaborating between your people. In this case, I collaborated with my IT, my technology integrator, the vendors. You want to meet the vendors beforehand. You want to be prepared. I don't have vendors telling me what I want. I tell them what I want, because I know after following the school goals and my core values and the impact, I know what I want. I know what it's going to give me something to really push my school. Place the orders, you know, schedule some time. I don't like to delegate these things. This is important. This is our little baby. We want to upgrade our school. Spending time with the vendors and looking at invoices. So this way you get the maximizing efforts. And then scheduling those delivery dates, making sure that you're on the email or phone calls and saying, hey, how do you expedite this? Because the sooner I get these services in my school, the sooner that my kids could use it. And making sure that, hey, that all these resources arrive, and you're double checking everything. And you have a management system, so whatever you purchase, whatever you buy, that you have for years and years to come. I think that's the most important thing. There's so many articles that are written in the newspaper of how sometimes as principals that we don't cherish what we get. And we have to have skin in the game. We have to say, you know what, we got something, we got to take care of it for years to come. And I think that's imperative in terms of really moving the pendulum as far as I'm concerned. So I do want to thank you. I hope this was helpful in terms of looking at what we do at Patrick Henry Prep to really support our grant efforts and how we can look at the whole pendulum of how we're meeting the needs of our students, our parents, and our staff. Thank you for the opportunity for presenting in this fine forum.
Thank you, Principal Montevini. I think that one of the reasons why we asked this principal to be a part of this process and to discuss this is because we have learned through the time that we've been doing this work that schools needed a little bit more guidance on how to prepare in anticipation, to look throughout, in planning for 3-5 years, potentially envisioning and having a little bit more clarity on priorities. And we're not naive that there are schools that have so many needs that at times that can become very challenging. So want to say that as well, that we're not naive when it comes to that. We do want to be able to know of all your needs. So going a little bit back on, want to just emphasize, this is how this principal has been doing his presentations. He makes me cry every time he comes meet with us because he brings me a binder and talks about his students and how great they're doing and so on. So only suggestions. Those are only suggestions, but certainly the message we're driving is pay a lot of attention to your priorities as much as possible. And yes, we understand that there are schools that have so many needs that can be challenging, but please, we're available for those conversations, and we welcome conversations throughout the year, not just this time of the year. And so now I would love to be able, thank you again. And if there are questions, please put them in the chat and we'll address them towards the end of the session. I will like to call Nasda, Principal Nasda Palchik Medina. And I don't see her. How do we get Nasda to be at the center of our presentation? There it is. Great. Thank you so much, Nasda, for having us. I met Nasda at a breakfast for their school district, and she pulled me to the side and she did not let me go until she had said everything she needed to say, asked all the questions she needed to ask. And I think her story is one that is worth hearing. She was a new principal at a school where there was a lot of need and a lot of challenges, very much like what I was mentioning earlier. And that she was new to also learning how to go through this process. So I don't want to say more for you, Nasda, but tell us about your story and the story of your school and how you were able to make this wonderful project happen.
Thank you. I'm trying to share my screen. Give me 1 second. But hi, my name is Nasda Palchik Medina. I'm the principal at PS 133. I thank you first for the opportunity to share my experience with my colleagues, and also to the MBPO for your advocacy and for your support throughout my experience and my journey as a principal. So let me share my screen now. Give me 1 second. Can you tell me if you can see my screen? Vanessa, can you see my screen?
I can't see your screen. It's
let me present.
Yeah. There you go.
Now, okay, great. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of context about PS 133, we are a small elementary school located in East Harlem. We have students from 3K to 5th grade. We're a Title I school with 98% of families categorized as economically disadvantaged. Our student population is 43% Black and 42% Latino. We have almost 50% of our students that receive special education services. We host an ASD Horizon program in our building for students with autism. We have one Horizon class basically per grade level from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. And for these and many other reasons, safety, of course, like many of you, is our top priority. We also host a 3K and pre-K for all 4 sections, 4 classrooms in total. So the need when I arrived to this building back in 2018 was basically to restore a space for students that they deserve to have. And we're talking about a playground. When I arrived to this building back in September 2018, the school was not in good shape in many aspects, but even, like when it comes to the school building as a whole, one of my goals was to make this school a happy place, and also, of course, to increase student outcome. But it came with, trying to make this place a happy place for everyone, for parents, for students, for staff. And because of that, I basically, as Vanessa mentioned, my goal was to get as many grants as possible to make this happen. So just to give you a little bit of context when it comes to the school and the state of the playground when I arrived. In 2015, the playground was closed down due to safety hazards. And in 2016, the previous administration applied to capital funding and was awarded $89,000 for fiscal year 2017. During the initial meeting that they had, it was determined that $89,000, of course, was not enough money to build a new playground. So the project was kind of put on hold. Then in November 2018, I was already a principal here, and as the new administration, we attended a legislative breakfast. And as Vanessa mentioned, I literally went towards her. I knew that it was going to be impossible for me to have a one-to-one time with Gail Brewer because everyone wanted to talk to Gail Brewer. So I kind of pay attention who was with her at that moment. And I noticed that Vanessa was with her at all times. So I basically approached her while she was getting some breakfast and just told her about my building and the needs. And I follow up with emails, and I scheduled a school visit because there were not really words for me to paint the picture for them. So I wanted them to come and see the building with their own eyes. So a school visit was scheduled for that same November, towards the end of November 2018. And that's basically the beginning of a wonderful journey that I had with the people from Gail Brewer's office and also City Council. So this was the state of the building when I arrived. This was the playground. This was supposed to be the 3K and pre-K playground. Just to give you a picture. So just based on the first part of the journey, I think the advice that I would give is do not miss on opportunities to meet your local representatives. Those legislative breakfasts are key. You get to see not only your local representative, but also the people that work with them, which, like you will be able to reach out and engage in conversation and hopefully also follow up with meetings. Identify these members, introduce yourself, don't be shy. Be proactive, follow up with emails and invite those representatives to your school, or at least the members of their team to come to your building. As I mentioned, sometimes words cannot provide a complete picture of the real problem. So once they see it, they understand. When it comes to the process, because this was in connection with the school facilities to build this playground, we did have a preliminary meeting basically looking to determine what's the amount of money needed for that project. When the prior principal applied to this grant, I can tell that there was not a clear understanding of how much money you need to actually, have a playground. So that's why it took so long for them to have this project done. And once we had that preliminary meeting and we understood how much money was needed for this project, then that allowed us to really just move forward with the next steps, right? We realized that we needed quite some money, and that the MBPO team was not going to be enough for us to support us. So we needed to also get in contact with Bill Perkins' team and the city council to coordinate that financial support from both offices. We made sure that we apply to both MBPO and city council, submitted the applications in January and February 2019. And once we were awarded with that money, then we had our first project meeting around May 2019. And right from the first meeting, we talk about the funding availability and the scope of work, basically build that wish list, and then the potential timeline to get that playground done for us. And right after that meeting, I believe it was the second week in June, the team started the demolition of the old playground. I want to share with you the challenges too, because when it comes to school facilities and it's difficult. There are always obstacles on the road, and I think it was important for me to just share these with you. Maybe it works better for you. So the first thing is we communicated the allocated money to the contract manager without first asking for a quote. I really don't know too much about the process in terms of, oh, does the quote come first? Do you just tell them how much money you have? I just felt that as a result, we got less than what we asked for. Maybe, we felt that the wish list was getting cut every time that we had a meeting. The meetings that we had, we included the representative of the school facilities, the contract manager, and the school administration, but the contractor, in this case was Geometrics, usually often was not part of these meetings, and as a result, the decisions made during the scheduled meetings were not necessarily accurately related to the contractors. So there was a gap into what we were deciding in the meetings and what the contractor was being informed of. The playground, the prior principal mentioned, make sure that you are behind those orders. I hear background noise. Make sure that you are on top of those orders, and he's absolutely right. We chose a playground back in June, but the order was not placed until September, which caused a delay in the construction. So not just say what you want, make sure that the order actually gets through. Setting up the construction site was a challenge too. This is New York City, so there is not enough parking. There is not enough space for, to actually set up the construction site. So I was told that the contractor didn't necessarily apply for a parking construction zone. So that made really difficult the delivery of materials, the disposal of, garbage trash, and the dumpster placement also was a challenge. The date for the finalized project, just know, is never the one estimated in the first meeting. We aimed for September 2019. We got the playground December 2019. Advice when it comes to the process, know your capital funding deadlines and save a copy of your application for future reference. You can always recycle some of the things that you're saying because your school is still your school and the context might be the same context. Sometimes we just change the goal or what you need at the moment. Collaboration with your local representatives, get them involved in the project, ask for their advice. We had that preliminary meeting with the MBPO team, and they actually were the one who told me, no, that's not enough money. You need about this amount because, it's difficult to know everything. So when it comes to these school facilities and how much money you require for construction. So definitely reach out to your representatives, reach out to the people that work in DOE to get an estimate of how much money you're gonna need. With your custodial engineer, he was key in this whole process. We worked together to monitor the progress of the project. We set aside time to get some progress reports and also to meet and to go over the site to see what was going on so that he can explain to me what was the actual progress and not just what they were telling me the progress was. Also collaboration with your school leadership team, send emails to, they can help you sending emails to your local representative, pictures of the projects to parents and other members of the community so that you can get their support when you need it. Another piece of advice is monitor, be on top of your game. This was also mentioned in the prior one. Keep on sending emails with progress reports and schedule meetings if needed. You need to be on top of the progress. You are the one who need to make them feel the urgency. Otherwise, they're not going to feel it until you are, like telling them this is important, right? Hold people accountable. Keep minutes from all of your meetings. And if possible, email those minutes to all of the people involved so that they know what their next steps are and what you're expecting by the next time that they're meeting with you. And finally, this was also mentioned before, write a thank you email with pictures of the final result. They want to see, like the final result. They want to see what was the outcome, and definitely, like send it out to your parents, to your community so that they can see what was the final product. This was the final product for PS 133. That was the main playground set. There's a small one and then a merry-go-round too. So this is what we were able to do thanks to the collaboration with MBPO and City Council. That's it. Thank you.
So thank you so much for sharing. I think the biggest lessons here are you will come out with a PhD on construction if you decide to do a playground or any sort of other work in your school, and that it, unfortunately, in my point of view, it takes a lot more from the principal than we would want it to. But at least on behalf of the Manhattan Borough President's Office, we are always available to support, and we need you to let us know when things are happening. I want to add something to your presentation, and it's one of the things that your space actually was created larger because there was a part there that was not in use, and then you extended your playground. And in addition to that, your thinking and the thinking of the head custodian was to rebuild a ramp that is usually used when people come to vote at the school site, and that was fixed. So it was, you were able to return a playground to the community, which had been closed for way too long. It should never be closed, in my opinion. And then on top of that, it was open now to the public and people to be able to vote, and you were able to use it this time around for the elections, and it went well. So kudos, that was an impact to the community as well. We may have opinions on whether schools should be used for voting or not, but in this case, right, that was available there. So thank you very much on that and your experience of communicating that so well. Lessons there are, people just always make sure you hold all your elected officials accountable, reach out to all of them. And the notes part and your agenda part and keeping track of all those minutes, extremely important. It helps us on our end to be able to communicate whenever we need to communicate with DOE, SCA, Department of School Facilities, to say, well, this is who was in the room and who can inform the rest of the conversation. So thank you very much for that opportunity and for giving us the opportunity to see this. I, by the way, have the pictures of your playground on the wall of my office to remember this is why we do this. This is why we do this. So congratulations on that. And so great. So I will want to now go and talk a little bit about our end of this, which the Manhattan Borough President's Office. Before I do that, James, I would appreciate if you keep track of the questions that are coming here. I see that there is a question about keeping how do you keep the playground open to the public? This particular playground is not open to the community. Am I correct, Nasta?
Not during the weekends, but during weekdays when we have during dismissal time, after the kids are dismissed, we do allow some of the families to stay for a little longer. Maybe not now, but they're still using it. But the plan is to definitely, you know, like try to find opportunities for the community to stay, you know, like to take advantage of this playground, of course.
So Donna Smiley, I look forward to answering that question a little bit more with other schools that have done some work and have been able to find money to maintain the space open on weekends and during weekdays and on weekends and when school is out. Of course, that's not happening now, like Nasta mentioned, but there are some ways of doing that. And if you send me an email, I can follow up with you, Donna. Great, so I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and a lot of this was already shared, so I'm just gonna move forward here. Very quickly, for the Manhattan Borough President's Office, most of you know already that we have a grants portal on our website. And when you go into our grants portal, it allows you to create a profile there. Very important because that way you can see the history of all your applications in there, whether you have been funded or not. What you won't necessarily see is the status of your project because we don't have systems that communicate with the School Construction Authority for that purpose. So set up your profile, do it in the name of the principal because the principal is the head of that, of the school and ultimately responsible to making sure that these projects do happen. Principals are more than welcome to assign somebody else to do the application process and can add additional people to the profile, but they do need to make sure that anything that is put in there as a request is reviewed by them and approved by them. And I say this with a lot of love for PTAs. We love you very much. I know you have great ideas and a lot of you made a lot of things happen in schools. If you're putting in a request for capital funding, it must come through the school principal's profile and we will review as long as it's approved by the principal. Everyone talked about the rest of this, you know, conceptualize your application and so on, but very important, hit submit in your application. A lot of people submit their applications, start their applications and they don't finish it. There's a blue button that says submit. And if you don't hit that, we won't get your application. And I know a lot of people are very stressed. There's way too much stuff going on in schools and in the world right now, but please, please, please remember the submit button because otherwise we can't review your application. This is how our grants portal looks like when you go on our website. You see on the right in this square, all of our email addresses are here. Mine's, Nelson's, and James are here. If you're having any problems, reach out to us. I suggest you email all of us because one of us, there's only 3 of us, and one of us will get back to you right away. If you forget your password, so you see this button here tells you how to create a new account. And if you forget your password, you can recover it that way. Again, if there is an account that has been created already, we are looking to not duplicate accounts because then we can't keep track of exactly how your portfolio at your school. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a ton of emails at the same time.
So you may need to share your screen when you were showing where to click.
I'm not showing right now. Oh, the submit button, you mean?
Yep.
Okay, so let's do that.
Maybe go a couple of steps back.
I won't be able to see the submit button here unless I go into the system itself. So
okay, however you want. You were referring to the button, but it wasn't there. That's all.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
So this, all right. So let me just keep going here. I do want to show you the application very quickly. Sorry, I need to go. How do I go back? Okay, experts. I don't know how to go back, but let me just tell you a little bit of tips on this process. I see Demetrius has a little thing, a little clicker, and he would have been able to go back, but I don't have one. That's why I love you. So, again, reinforcing what people said ahead of us. Talk to your borough president, talk to your elected officials. We have included in this presentation and in the application itself how you can go ahead and find out if you don't know who your elected official is, right? How you can find out who that is and how to reach out to them. Letting you know that there are different deadlines for everyone and different processes for this one. Key, remember, this is discretionary funding, so it's at the discretion of that elected official. So it's very important that you reach out to them. And just bringing it back to what Bennett said earlier pertaining participatory budgeting, most of the Manhattan Council people use participatory budgeting, and it's likely that they already determined how that process was going to happen. I'm wondering if it's delayed because of COVID, but the point here is reach out to your elected officials, find out who they are. If you're a charter school, letting you know unless you are applying for technology, that is the only thing that you can apply via our application process. Everything else has to be applied via CAP grants. And you can see a link here that tells you how that is. We're also providing you here a link that lets you know how to make an appointment with us to meet. You do not have to make an appointment with us, but we highly suggest that you reach out to us with any questions. Reach out to SCA, get your quotes from them, because otherwise it won't be correct. If you can't get a hold of them because they're very busy, and they are very busy, please let us know and we'll try to connect you with them. I want to highlight specifically the issue of co-located schools. When you are in a co-located school, we do require that you get a letter from the other principals and that you upload it in our system so that we know this has been a discussion between all of you. Otherwise, it becomes very hard to implement projects if you're in a co-located school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me see. So our funding timeline, we start, the application opens tomorrow. Tomorrow is December 9th. And we will be reviewing applications on a rolling basis as they come in. Our deadline is February 19th. That's a Friday, February 19th. So you have quite some time to be doing this. Please don't wait till the last minute in case you have any problems with the system, because we wanted you to get your application in. It does close, February 21st by 5 p.m. And if you do wait till 5 p.m., it's not gonna let you in. So please know 4:59, it's the latest that you can put it in. We do not have hard copies, but if for some reason you're having any issues with systems, give us a call and we will figure out if any other way of allowing you to submit the application. And we attempt to, you can call us throughout the process, but just know we won't send you a letter or know if you in fact got money until July when budget adoption takes place, because so much changes between the time when preliminary budget is put out by the mayor's office and the time that the budget is negotiated with the council members. So you will get a letter or an email from us. And if you don't, then please do call us and do let us know. Let's see what else is here. So I just want to stop sharing. I see there are a lot of questions here. Yeah. Let me just look at this. Since we are in the question part, I can go through our application process and/or I can make sure to provide that application for people. I do want to say a few things about the application. Let's go through the application. My apologies. I will. How do I share this? One second. Where's my document here? So this is a PDF of the application. So it doesn't look exactly like this because it's a PDF, but the content is. And this is for this fiscal year 22. Please pay attention to the name. Is FY22 Schools Capital Funding Application. People sometimes get confused because we have another application for city properties, but this one's very specifically for schools. And, you know, fairly straightforward. It's going to ask you about the school name, the DBN, school number, where is it located, etc. We need a contact for someone to have conversations with if we have questions, and that's who contact first name is, right? If it's the principal, then it's the principal. But then we also need to have the information for the principal. So a little bit tedious there, but we just need to have multiple points of points where we can be of points of communication, excuse me. And then we ask you to let us know, you know, what type of school you are and the enrollment. This year, we want to know a little bit more about any changes in your enrollment because so much has happened with the coronavirus pandemic. And, you know, it would be good for us to also know how many students are coming in and how many are remote. And we know that that changes, and I guess it's going to change a little bit less now. Who knows, right? We'll find out. It's okay if it's not exact, and we do understand that it might change. This document also is a document that allows us to gather information from what's going on in the field. And if we have to do some advocacy and we need to be reaching out for any other issues, we're getting some of it through these questions here. It lets us know a little bit more about what's happening if we're not meeting with you directly. So it's not like we're going to say, oh, you don't have kids anymore, so we're not going to give you technology. It's also just informing us in our policy efforts. Then we're going to ask you about the project information and, you know, what type are you going to be doing? We give you some choices here. You can always write other if it's not listed there. And then we also want to know, is this something that you already have money for? Like in the case of NASDA, PS 133, there was money, but it was not enough money, right? So let us know, yes, you tell us a little bit of the story. We had money, but it didn't work because X, Y, and Z, and we need this and this for these and these reasons. In the project description, again, just let us know if you're repurposing any money. And repurposing means you might have a prior allocation from a prior fiscal year. And let's say that you needed money for technology and you were able to get funding in another way and you no longer need it for that purpose, you can reach out to our office to change the purpose towards any other need as long as it's enough to meet that need, you know. Project impact, again, this is a lot of what was mentioned by the prior presenters. The total project cost is very important. We meet with the council members, all council members in Manhattan to discuss funding. It so happens to be that our applications come in before theirs. So often we are informing them that you're going to be reaching out to them. So let us know that you are reaching out to them and how much money you intend to apply for. And then the rest of this is really, we want to make sure that if you're confirming that you did speak to the school construction authority, confirming, you know, that your quotes came from the correct sources. FAMIS and SHOP DOE are used for technology equipment. Bennett or Bianca, if I'm saying something that is not true with that, please do correct me, but my understanding is FAMIS and SHOP DOE should at this point have the correct pricing.
That's correct.
Okay, because I know there were some changes taking place. So FAMIS and SHOP DOE should be reflecting at this point the current cost. And then, you know, we do ask you to, if it's possible, to upload those quotes, but as you can see, is not required. The other, and that's if you are in a leased facility, I know there's a ton of schools who are in leased facilities and are wanting to do bigger projects that are not allowed. Do reach out to us. We want to know what's the term in your lease at this point. We haven't always been successful in making sure to make bigger changes to facilities. We end up usually doing technology. And I know some of you do not, that's not what you need. So reach out to us. And we'll talk more about that.
Vanessa, just to add to your technology information that you're providing, any quotes that you produce via FAMIS or SHOP DOE, please tag on 10% to that for the integrator fee. And that's the fee for the individual who's going to be coming to your school to meet with you to discuss your needs and to then order your needs and install your needs.
And then again, we just want to know about what community board, what council district, and what assembly person, so that as we gather our data, we can also share it with those elected officials. Again, but they do have their own processes and their own applications, so it's important that you reach out to them directly. So I want to go back and see their comments here. So this is a good time for questions. Elka, I'm not sure if people can actually speak or if they need to put the questions in the chat. So it will be helpful for you to let us know. But
Yeah,
in the
people can just speak up if they have a question. They can unmute.
The hand raising feature. Let's take questions that we have here for now. I was asked to go over the newly fundable and not fundable types of items. So Bennett, in your presentation, when you say new, let me see, this is Beth, the newly funded and non-fundable types, are you referring to, so in the past, Chromebooks were not eligible, iPads, tablets were not eligible, and they are now eligible? I don't know if that's what you mean, or do you mean specifically the list of everything that's fundable? Overall, it has to be $50,000. The minimum has to be $50,000, has to be a system that goes together, and it has to be some sort of security and safety, which is one of the questions that Lee Nelson had in pertaining the cards, and why cards have been imperative in making sure the technology is purchased in that way. So we will be sending everyone the presentations from the School Construction Authority that tells you timeline, historical quotes in there. So hopefully that's what you meant. And if I didn't answer your question, let us know. Question was related to things that we can fund that we could not. Okay, yeah, okay. So then that's what you could not do before. You could not do the Chromebooks, tablets, and that's pretty much it, Bennett, right? At this point, was been added.
Also printers. Certain printers are eligible now, whereas they weren't before. And that was a big point of contention for quite some time.
Can you tell us, Bennett, while you're there, while you're at that topic of printers that are of what size, of what capacity, and I'm assuming that the issue is still that we cannot pay for ink, however, right?
That's correct. But certain printers you could find on FAMIS and Shop DOE. All eligible items you could find on FAMIS and Shop DOE. I'm not particularly versed in what type of printers, but I know that printers before were entirely ineligible. I know that now that you can get some printers, probably not all, but they have to speak to the network ability of the printer.
I'm just going through the chat to see if I see any other questions that we need to address at this time.
And just to reiterate, Vanessa, if people don't have questions today, that's fine. They could email me, Bianca, and Brian at any point, and we'd be happy to get back to you with any responses. So you have open-ended question and answer.
There was a question here to confirm that the minimum is 50,000. It is. It used to be 35. It is 50,000. Let's see. Okay, I do not. How do you keep? Okay, we answered the question about the playground area and how to keep it open. Okay, for fiscal year 22, will the Manhattan Borough President only prioritize technology and broadband upgrades? No. We are prioritizing closing projects overall in our capital portfolio at the office. I will say, however, that it seems to be that the biggest need is technology at this time. And also technology has been something that we can fund a lot easier, because for $100,000, for example, you can get a project that gets usually completed faster, right? And you can get those and it's functional faster than just having to wait a few years to put additional funding and to be able to design and bid and so on, like a construction project. So I wouldn't say that we are going to focus specifically on technology, but we do focus mainly in technology every year for the reasons I mentioned earlier. But you are welcome to discuss and submit whatever the need is. I will say we have been warned that we are going to get very, very small amounts of money this year, given the financial crisis. So keep that in mind, and please make an appointment with us for a phone call or a meeting if you need to. Let's see, if there's a new principal in our school, do we have a new account? If there is a principal in your school, reach out to us and we will make the changes to your profile account and put that principal there. So when we send you our presentation, the contact information for everyone is there. James can help you with that. I can help you with that, and we can update your profile. We'll just change the password and then everything else can be updated in there. Okay. Okay, so what plans are in place to add the pandemic as a consideration to how rigorous these applications need to be? I'm concerned we can meet the high bar in the application set in prior years, given our school admins literal lack of time. You know, we have had very, very simple applications where if we have additional questions, we reach out to the school directly. What's important is that you clearly identify what the school is, what the need is, and that you have a quote from the school construction authority. And we can even help you get those if you can't get a hold of them. So if your school is one that is, I think all schools are overburdened right now. If you need additional support in your application process, reach out to us. So again, no need for, you know, the state-of-the-art application. We love state-of-the-art applications anyway, and we strive for that, but we also understand what's happening in the world, period. Okay, let's see. We went through what's fundable, what's not fundable. Okay, let's comment here about participatory budgeting. Well, to districts to see, can you recommend alternative grants? Okay, so there's a comment here about participatory budgeting being canceled. You are correct. I did forget about that. I'm sorry. That does not mean that the money is not available from the council person to still be able to find a way to provide funding. They might just not be doing participatory budgeting and having a separate application for discretionary funds regardless. And I urge you to reach out to your council person for that information. I do not have the information at this time. And then the second part of this question is, can you recommend alternative grants that are commonly used for similar projects? And I don't have an answer for that, but F.L. Garcia del Castillo, I will reach out to you to have further conversations. We do have some information from foundations, but we don't necessarily, we don't have a list that will say go here for this time of year. Capital funding is very hard to get in the form of grants, but we can talk more about that. I urge you to reach out to me and we can have a conversation on that as we move forward in this process. Let's see. Do I know when the 2021 grant funds for technology may be available? I do not. I mean, Bennett, I can say a few things and then you can add. So I think Bennett did try to give some explanation about why the delay for both the fiscal year 20 and the fiscal year 21. Usually in a normal year, you would be hearing from the school construction authority via principals weekly. So for those of you who've never applied before, Principals Weekly is how communications happen. They let you know how much money was allocated on behalf of, of your school by the multiple sources. If you got something from the school, from the council person and from the borough president, and then you're asked to fill out some information, and a technology integrator reaches out to you to continue that conversation, which is what the Principal Pantelidis was referencing earlier. I'm assuming that, part of what happened with the financial crisis was that all capital projects were stopped. I don't know how much you guys know about this, but the Office of Management and Budget was trying to figure out a way to address the billions of dollars in deficits that we have, and then made a priority anything that was related to COVID, so health related, HVAC systems and so on. At least in theory, right? That was what was supposed to be happening. And a lot of money was spent towards that end and so on. And so fiscal year 20 money, which took forever to be released, and was finally released in March or the end of February, and then the pause was put in place. Adding to that, there were a number of issues related to documentation that was not completed adequately and did not reflect some of the changes that the Controller's Office Memo 2001 allows for. So that now RESO-A funding could allow you as a principal or a staffer in the school to lend that equipment and take it outside of the school. RESO-A funding did not allow that for that in the past until there was changes made by the Controller on March 14 of 2020. And so that didn't exactly translate into action on behalf of the multiple agencies that need to change documents to be able to, in fact, order equipment. And so where we're at this point, for everybody who has the question of where is my technology for fiscal year 20, is that the funding has been rolled out. Department of Education is reaching out to the schools directly. However, there is a hold because there were documents that needed to be changed to allow for certain purchases to take place. To your question, Lee, Nelson, that also includes the issue of, can you not purchase a laptop cart and maximize the laptops or the Chromebooks and so on. So I'm saying all this to say and answer the question of the person who's asking for fiscal year 2021, that it's going to be quite some time before you hear about 2021 because they're still doing 2020. Would I be saying this accurately, Bennett and Bianca?
Thank you. Yes, that was very accurate, Vanessa.
So it is not really, can we tell people what, January, February?
Unfortunately, I don't have any dates or timelines that, might be realistic. So I have no concrete, and I don't want to give people wrong information, but everything that you just articulately said was spot on. The funding was released super late by OMB in February. COVID hit in March, everything was paused. And by paused, I mean OMB put a hold on our cash flow. We couldn't pay people. So that's why all the projects ended up being paused, and a large portion of those projects still remain paused. And technology projects are moving forward, but like Vanessa said, there's a lot that needs to happen.
You should know on our end, for those of you who are in the presentation, we have been very actively working with schools, superintendents, executive superintendent, DOI, IT, and so on to follow to the T what's happening. We've written lots of letters that we have shared with you. If you don't have them, we can forward them to you. But in essence, we will continue to ask for these expenses to be seen as COVID related, health related, so that we'll continue the advocacy process as we continue to go. Let me see, there are some. What is the maximum amount that one can ask for? There is no maximum that you can apply for. I would say to you, you need, there is, so the black and white, the factual information is there is no maximum. Whether we can fund it is another issue, right? So you want to talk to us and you want to know your priorities. You know, one of the things that I see at times is there's one application submitted and they want a playground and a gym and computers and an HVAC system without fully understanding what that means. It clearly reflects that there is a need in that school for facilities, and that it again informs policy issues for us, but it's not something that we can fund. So our budgets are small. We usually try to give at least $100,000 for technology needs. I urge you to reach out to us to discuss the needs of your particular school if you have questions on that, further questions on that. What do schools do with their usable but outdated technology? And they give us examples, Chromebooks that don't work well with Zoom. I did not know that Chromebooks don't work well with Zoom. I don't know how to answer your question. I'm assuming, Principal Pantelides, in your experience, what are the rules around this
I know that the DOE, thank you, Vanessa. I know that the DOE also has opportunities where you can either resell your items. There are vendors out there that will purchase them through the DOE, and they can give you some kind of monetary donation. But you would need to follow that entire process. There is a recycling aspect. It depends how old the machines are, or the Chromebooks might be in this case. The other part about it is you want to best utilize your Chromebooks. If they're not getting Zoom, you want to think of other apps that you can utilize, or other ways that you can utilize those Chromebooks in the classroom. So this way they can benefit our students when the students do come back. So there's different ways that you can go about it.
And I see notes from a number of you saying there is a process. You can send 40 pieces at a time, lots of 40 pieces at a time. And Lee Nelson mentions you can reach out to your SPOC at school. Okay.
Define SPOC.
Yeah, I would love to. Lee.
Most schools have a SPOC. That's your point of contact, and they are the tech people that directly deal with DIT. There is a removal process, and it's not up to 40. It's actually, they're desperate. They'll even take 20. So as long as you have your items in order, you just fill out the form, and a vendor will get in contact with you, and they'll pick up whatever you have. But there are limits there, so you have to look on that SPOC list. They won't take smart boards. They will take laptops. They will take the Chromebooks. Yes. There are certain things they won't take, though. So look on the list.
And service and bring them back.
They will not service them. Incorrect. If it's broken, that's somebody said the broken devices. If things need to be repaired, if it's in the warranty of 3 years, depending on what it is, they will repair it. If it's out of date, then no, you're on your own.
Okay, so I see a question here. So SPOC stands for single point of contact, and we have a follow-up question. We don't have a single point of contact. Where would I find the list and vendors? Bennett, is that DIIT?
The list of vendors?
The list, yeah, where would I find the list and the vendors? So if they don't have a single point of contact for experts over there, either Pantelides or Lee, if they don't have a single point of contact, how do they get this information? Do they speak to their?
They would need to contact the AIS integrator. Every school in the city has an AIS integrator. There's a telephone number for each one of them because they're mandated to have one in our day and age right now. So they will get in touch with their district office to identify who their AIS integrator might be.
Great. And so we'll put some questions that we send out to people. If we have more information on that, we'll include it as well. So this is a good time for any additional questions. If there are any, we'll take it. And if not, then I will say, have a great night. Okay, so as
so
a
we do-
reminder, yep.
I was gonna say, we do have Matthew Washington, our deputy borough, that just got on. I don't know if he wants to say a few words. Matthew?
Thank you, James. It's great to be here. Vanessa and James, thanks for leading this. One thing I did want to mention, Vanessa mentioned earlier, was that if your principal changes, please reach out so that we can change the information in our system. That applies to all schools except PS 171 because Principal Pantelidis is not allowed to leave the school. So don't call about that because we're not going to accept that change. But I appreciate you. He's been a good friend for many, many years and just wonderful. We love education. Thanks to Bennett and Bianca for being a part of this always and for just being wonderful. Working with the SCA team is a lot of fun. Certainly Vanessa and James for their hard work. Nelson supporting them, even though schools aren't his focal area, but still supporting. And Sean from our office, who you all may have heard, just started yesterday. Was his first day, so he's jumping right in and getting involved. And so I just appreciate everyone's. We really do these sessions because we want to serve, and also want to thank Elka for all the technical support and helping to put the Zoom together and everything that's been happening. We just want to have this opportunity to share information. None of this is mandatory. It's all our best effort to serve you, to make sure you have everything that you need so that we can do the best that we can as public servants. We believe in public service. It's our responsibility to serve all of you, and please let us know what we can do to serve you better each and every day. So thank you for taking the time to join the team today, for being a part of this. Please reach out. You can certainly contact James and Vanessa. Even if you reach out at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're on it. It's amazing. I don't think they sleep. They do an amazing job. So I'm very blessed and fortunate to work with incredible colleagues. And I just thank everyone, all of you so much for being a part of this. It makes a big difference. And I did want to give a shout out, if I don't know if Colleen is still there, but I did see Baby Yoda is somebody's profile picture. So I've been watching The Mandalorian also. So thank you for the Baby Yoda sighting, the special. But have a great evening, a wonderful afternoon, everybody. And really, please be in touch. And you're also welcome to call me anytime. My contact information is generally available anytime, any day, it doesn't matter. I love doing work. And I do want to give a special shout out to my friend Emel, who, 187, it's different, but you're the best anyway. So I thank you all for being a part of this, and we will see you soon and hopefully speak with you very soon and help you with everything you need help with. And please do not be bashful about reaching out. We're here to serve. So thanks again, Vanessa, and to the whole team.
Kind words, sir. So with that, just reminding you, you will get an email from us with the presentation materials, and we'll also be forwarding you a little survey, very, very short, and we would really appreciate it if you fill it up. It just helps us inform, how we're doing and whether we're meeting the need that you are presenting or not, and how we can do this better. And I am so grateful to have been able to do this virtual session and to actually do it in a more participatory way. So thank you. Looking forward to working with you, and be well. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.